So it's a very warm welcome today to the Global Business Podcast Show to Daniel Masci. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much for having me, Mark. Yeah, great to be here.
Great to have you, and we're going to have a chat about business today. We were just talking offline about, COVID-19 and all the crazy things that are happening in the part of the world that you're in. So can you tell my listeners to start off with exactly where you are talking to us from today?
We are in the hub of it all, Mark. We are in Melbourne.
In Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. So you were just giving me some rather disturbing news before we came on. So tell everybody what's happened in Melbourne today as far as COVID-19 goes.
Recent updates from this morning was, I think it was 729 new cases as of today were announced by the Premier, I think on the 11 o'clock breaking news. So I think that really puts it into a really serious category for us down here.
Yeah, now just for those listening around the world, and we are going to 97 countries today, Daniel. So just for those people that are tuning into Australia's latest on COVID-19, Victoria, the state of Victoria has had a bit of a second wave, we're calling it, I guess, in terms of the COVID-19 outbreak. But that number you just mentioned then, it's almost double what it was the previous days, wasn't it?
I think yesterday's was 285 or somewhere about that.
Wow.
So it's nearly triple that. It's staggering. It is really staggering.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's get on to positive stuff, because this show is all about creating positivity. And you're in Melbourne, Australia, and let's tell everybody what line of business are you in, Daniel?
That's an interesting question. What aren't we into is probably the easier way to answer it. So we've got Masci Group, which is a holding or a parent company for a few businesses that sit underneath that, and it's myself and my brother Mark who are the co-founders and directors of Masci Group. Then underneath that, we have Interface Constructions. Mm-hmm. We also have Multi-Civ, which is our residential low to medium rise apartment builds. Mm-hmm. We have 8 Architecture, which is our internal architectural company. We have Masci Services Group, which facilitates all the accounts, administration, sales and marketing for the groups. Yep. And we also have Humaneity, which is an initiative that we started probably earlier this year, where each project that we do or have signed off, we work with the client or the local council to donate 100 new trees to the area. All right. And we engage our team to go out there and plant all the trees. So we've just started that, and I think we've got 2 projects lined up where we'll be getting that in the next couple of months. Well,
that's fantastic. So as you say, you got your finger in a number of pies there. First of all, I've got to say your brother must be a great guy with a name like that.
He is. He's a ripper. He's twice the man that I am.
Yeah. There you go. So tell us about being an entrepreneur. When did all that start? Did you and Mark get together in business from way back, or how did you start off being wanting to be a business guy?
I think that we it's a funny thing, because we never really considered ourselves even up until a few months ago entrepreneurial or as entrepreneurs, because I think it's a word that gets thrown around a lot in this day and age. And how do we get to that point? We're not really sure. Our mum said that we always had it in us when we used to, even when we were at high school, we would be at school selling our treats or selling our lunches to some of our mates. If mum would make some nice cakes or biscuits or this and that, we wouldn't even eat them. We'd just be trying to sell them off to people and see where we could make $1. So I guess that's where it started. And from that point, Mark and I have always been in business together. We spent the best part of 10 plus years in a family retail construction business, traveling around Australia, building Rebel sports stores, Kathmandu's, Diva, so all sorts of different stuff. And then, from in between that, so we were doing that, which is super demanding, 60 to 80 plus hours a week. In between that, we started our own cleaning business. So after hours, we would go and clean the shops that we just built. And then after that, we also had another guy that we knew approached us and said, "Do you want to open a retail store with us?" And we're like, "Yeah, sure, why not? Let's do that." And not to say that every one of those businesses have been successful, but it's definitely kept us on our toes.
I bet it has. That's quite a journey. Now, tell us, for those people out there today, because there's a lot of people around the world at the moment who are considering, for good or bad, to start a business, and a lot of people haven't done that before. So going back in your recollection of your early days of starting businesses, what were some of the hard things that you look back on now and think they were really good lessons to learn?
I think one of the most challenging things for business is understanding your finances and understanding the cash flow. Because a lot of people will just jump into a business because they're really passionate about a certain thing, which I think is an amazing starting point. But for us and what we've learned is that the backbone of every part of a really good, successful business is understanding where your finances are, understanding your cash flow, where's the money coming to pay for everything. Once you've got that sorted out, you can absolutely jump back into the passion and then create an amazing team. If you're building a team, make sure that you're selecting the absolute right people, and not even particularly for the job, but the right people for the business, culturally.
I like you said that. I think that's something that's maybe overrated in terms of, or maybe not understood as much as terms of being important as getting the right fit for the culture of the business, isn't it? You can get the best people sometimes, but they just don't fit into the right slots. Is that something you learnt right from the get-go, or did that evolve over time?
Well, that's definitely evolved over time. It's have we got it right? I think we've got very close to getting it right, and that process has taken ages. We've probably only really started honing in and focusing that in the last 18 months to 2 years. And being that we started in construction, it is very much churn and burn, and people move around a lot, and people want to come in for one project and then move away. And what we wanted to do is create a really great culture and atmosphere where people stay, and we learn from them as much as what they learn from us.
What's the secret behind finding good people? What's your go-to method for that?
Well, Mark will tell you that I have an innate ability to be able to sit with someone and read them fairly quickly. And a lot of times if we're interviewing someone, I won't even ask any questions. I'll just sit back and just get a really good feel. And it's a bit of a gut feel for me where I'll just watch and listen to what the people are saying. I think that's one good thing that I'm doing is I'm a really good listener. So I just listen to who they are as a person, how they fit, and then I'll ask them some questions. And a lot of the time it won't even be work-related questions. It'll be more so about who they are as a person, what gets them excited, what hobbies and things like that, and just more base it on a different level away from business. And that gives me a really good feel of culturally who they are and what sort of environment they're going to work in. Do they like to work autonomously? Because that's pretty much what we promote in the business. We've often hired people that in one position and moved them to a new position within 2-3 months because it's not the right position for them, but culturally they're just an amazing fit to the business.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think in terms of, first of all, your communication ability to be able to sit back and be a listener, I think is something that's also underrated in this world today. A lot of people like to do the talking and having that feeling. And also the other thing that I picked up on there was the gut feel, the intuition, such an important aspect of running a business, because a lot of the time you're right, aren't you, with your gut feel and your intuition?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that, there's definitely been times where I haven't had that, or I haven't listened to that gut feel, I can be very impulsive, and so can Mark. We're both, pretty impulsive, and we've got very addictive personalities where we can just be like, yeah, bang, that's it, let's go, and move. And we don't even give ourselves time to digest it. And we're like, oh, yeah, okay, we probably should have just waited for a little bit on that and given it a bit of a gut feel, or, even if that's, getting new people into the business, they sound like a gun. I'm like, yep, get them. And then we're like, yeah, okay. So it's, and we've really worked hard on that over the last 12 months and introduced a lot of meditation into our lives, and that allows us to slow down and listen.
Fantastic to hear that as well. I'm a big guy on meditation and a bit of an ambassador for it, particularly in business. I think that needs to be more widespread. What's it like working with your brother? A lot of people out there will be thinking about, okay, well, should I start a business with my brother or sister? Is it a good idea or what?
It is. It's one of the best things. And, we had a bit of a sabbatical, or I had a bit of a sabbatical out of construction and property development for a little bit. And in that time, we always knew that we were going to come back together into a business, the businesses, and I couldn't have chosen a better person to work with. We have so many similarities with our thinking, and sometimes we don't even have to talk. And people find it, really strange. I remember once after work, Mark and I and our partners went down to they had the night noodle markets on, and we saw one of our clients, and he said, "Hey, what are you guys doing here?" And we said, "Oh, we're just at the noodle market." He said, "Together?" And we said, "Yeah." He said, "But you guys work together too, yeah?" And we're like, "Yeah." He said, "Do you get sick of each other?" And we're like, "No." He goes, and they're Matt, and he's like, "Yeah, I couldn't work with my brother, let alone go to the noodle market with my brother." And we got a lot of people to say that, like, there's no way I could work with my brother. But and some people ask us all the time if we're twins, but and we're not. There's 22 months between us. Mark is older, but we feel like we have that connection of twins. It is really uncanny. And for us, what better support network to have in your business than a blood relation? Especially a brother or a sister. I think if you can make it work, absolutely, because it's so many people start the business on their own, and the first thing they want is some support.
Yeah, I can. I got to say though, I can never ever imagine doing a business with my sister. So I think there's horses for courses. That I think for some family members it might work well, but for others it probably something to stay clear of. Yeah.
Absolutely, and it's not it's not a must that everyone should do. I think that if you've got a really good connection and a really good bond, then it's why not try and create something amazing with the people that you can.
Yeah, tremendous. Right, let's go back to January 2020, and the world was a very different place than we know it today. And I wanted to kind of pick your brain on how your business was looking back in January 2020. What were some of the big plans you had for this year in terms of goals that you wanted to achieve before COVID-19 came along? So in this section, I just really want to talk about, how the year was looking for you guys and how business was going at the time back in January.
Yeah, man, January, that seems like such a long time ago with so much water under the bridge since then. Yeah. And especially trying to remember something super normal. January was summer. We had quite a few good projects lined up, and we were just moving office, which was a really exciting time. I think we moved in mid to late Feb. So we were getting ready for this big transition, recruiting a lot more people, and a lot of new projects coming through the door. We've got one of our developments, which I forgot to mention before. We've got Masci Property Group, which is one of our development companies. We've got a development in Collingwood that we're working on, and we're supposed to be building this year, but just when everything with COVID hit, everything slowed down. Council slowed down. Getting applications granted were that sort of slowed down. So, and then into April, the construction side of the business, we had not one tender to do in April. So we really saw a big impact in that part of the year. And it was strange. It was a little bit of panic and introducing sanitizer to all the projects and working through it. So what we had planned for a really big, exciting year with the new office space and some of the goals of building, the office build, the 7-level office build, all sort of became very secondary, and we wanted to just batten down the hatches for a bit and refocus on where we were and how this is going to affect the team. Does everyone start working from home? And we made the decision that they wouldn't work from home. We've got enough space here to really separate out. And I think that was an amazing decision, a really, really good decision for us, because it kept the community of our team and the culture really, really alive.
How big is your team?
So in the office, I think in total we've got about 35 to 40. And then in the office is about 23, 24 people.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think a lot of people will be a little bit surprised by that, because I think there was this kind of mass exodus, wasn't there, from offices for people to go and work from home and to, in a large extent, enjoy it because they were back in their home environment. They didn't have to commute to the work. And yet what you're talking about is very relevant, because it's about bringing the team together and having it work within the office environment. What were some of the benefits that came out of that for you guys?
Look, I think, one of the massive benefits for us is we became quite insular. So, although we had all this, and there was a hell of a lot of negative energy circulating through the whole world, there, at the start, everyone started panicking a bit, and we said, okay, well, we have the choices. You can work from home, you can keep coming into the office. And everyone said we'd prefer to come into the office because, there was people that work here that are, single, living in an apartment, and they said they'll go stir crazy. So it gave us the good ability to keep that community alive. And, at the same time, we said, okay, well, if that's what we're going to do, we're turning the TVs off. We're turning the radios off. We're not going to listen to any external noise. Let's just keep doing what we're doing. We minimalised in all the meeting rooms, only 2 people into a meeting room. In the boardroom, there's only to be 4 people. There was hand sanitizer everywhere. There was, more hand sanitizer around than what there is computers. But it kept us all focused on having an amazing energy in the building. And, we're, like I said, we're really lucky because we moved into this new space. And that energy of being in this new space and being able to come to work every day has really kept us in a really strong position as a team.
So let's go back to when COVID first hit, and you mentioned then that, in April it started to really take hold. Was there a decision where was there a time when you and Mark actually sat down and said, right, we need to come up with a strategic plan here on how we're going to survive this? Can you remember that particular day, or was it a day or a week or a month or...
Yeah, I think it was probably, I think that was probably early March when a lot of panic set in when we had the first lockdown. I can't remember if that was late February, I'm pretty sure it was early March. And, us and the team were like, well, what's going to happen for us? Are we going to continue working? And then straight away from that, we sat down, myself, Mark and Rick, our general manager, sat down in a closed door meeting and said, okay, well, what's the plan? What does this look like for now? What is it going to look like in 4 weeks? What does it look like in 8 weeks? And that was around the time we made the decision, and we did hear the construction was staying open because it is, it's a massive economic boost for the country. So to close that down would be, detrimental to the economy. So we said we'll keep trading and we'll keep pushing through, and we actually ended up recruiting 2 or 3 new people through that time. Just because we kept looking for work, we made sure, we analysed the risk of what projects we had coming in, and let's just keep moving. Let's just keep our heads high and just, stay focused on the goal. The goal is to bring in more projects, keep the team busy, and keep all of us busy.
You've made reference to how individuals felt about the whole COVID-19 experience when it first came on, and let's face it, everybody kind of took all that information on board in a different way and dealt with it in a different way. Did you see a lot of different, personality traits in your staff and the way they dealt with COVID-19 in the beginning and how they were, taking all this news in from the outside? Yeah,
it was a mixed, I suppose, a mixed state from everyone. Some of the younger guys were like, it's okay, it is what it is, and they weren't too fazed by it. Some of the more mature team members were started wearing masks back then. Interestingly, some of them went from catching the train every day to buying cars. So I'm sure the car sales have gone up quite a bit, but everyone made that decision to not be taking public transport anymore, which I thought was a great idea. There wasn't a lot of panic. I don't think that because we did the right things at the start and we had all the signage up and we had the social distancing happening and all the sanitizer, everyone felt comfortable, and we took the input from the teams as well.
I guess in terms of the other major influence that was happening here, you talked about having a 4-week and an 8-week, plan in terms of what things were looking like. How did the impact of what the government was sending out in terms of almost daily updates from the National Health Committee and Council that was put together here in Australia? How did that information impact your strategy and vision as you move forward on a day-to-day basis?
So the plan for that part is we were listening to the radio and watching the news on a daily basis at the very start, which was probably 2 weeks. As soon as we learned that construction, which includes all of our businesses, for the 2 construction businesses, the architectural and the property development, as soon as we learned that they weren't going to be impacted, that it was business as usual, as long as you're doing the right things and abiding by the COVID rules and regulations, we turned the TVs off. And we stopped watching and we stopped listening because it was all, there was a lot of uncertainty. And so for us, as soon as they said construction will stay open, we turned everything off and didn't listen.
Okay, interesting. So you just basically ignored the information that was coming out for the benefit of being positive and keeping in the space that you're working in, yeah?
Yeah, and look, there was a couple of team members that were still watching the numbers, and at that time, it was an interesting time because I think Victoria had a bit of a spike, and then we plateaued for quite a while, and the numbers started going down, and that was about the time where we weren't not paying attention. We were getting updates, but we definitely weren't listening to the radio, and definitely weren't watching the TV because it's very much doom and gloom, and there's a lot of fear that is broadcast, and fear and panic that is put into people's lives, and people have enough stresses and enough fears and panics without adding that extra level to them. So we just kept that away from the team and made sure that we were doing everything right.
Yeah, good point. Okay, well, that's understandable from your business point of view, but you've got customers and you've got suppliers and people that you work with. What was their reaction to COVID-19 coming along, and how did that impact your business?
Look, most of them were really good and really compliant. We did have quite a few people who were like, "Oh, we just need to come in for a meeting," and we said, "Well, you can't." And they said, "No, but we'll wear masks and we'll sanitize." And we said, "You cannot. We will not. We will not allow our team to be subjected to external people coming in where we don't know where you've been, we don't know who you've been in contact with. So we're protecting the team. These are the rules and the regulations. If you want to do business, everything for us at that point was over Zoom." And quickly everyone did get literally over Zoom because what we were doing was having video chats every day. But they were good. Initially there was and people would try and make meetings and turn up, and we say, "Look, guys, you can't come in. Sorry."
Yeah, right. As a business leader, what were some of the skill sets that came to the fore in the beginning of this process for you to make sure that your staff and your customers and your suppliers and that were kept up to date with what your business was going? What are some of the skill sets you'd highlight as being absolutely critical during this time?
So from that side of it, myself, Mark, and Rick, our GM, we would have constant chats every few days about it. And Rick was instrumental in keeping the teams updated. He would always be sending out emails to the team, doing up flyers to put around on all the sheds. There was flyers all over the office. He, kept in communication with all our suppliers and said, this is how we're operating going forward. So, it was, as much as it was a collective, it was really Rick who drove that process home really, really hard. And, we all together with all of us, we drove it home with the team and just communicated it really, really well.
Yeah, cool. So in a lot of countries, governments have stepped up and put into place all sorts of support mechanisms for businesses. What has the Victorian and Australian government done to support your business through this process?
I don't know that we've actually reached out for a lot of support, to be honest. I know that there has been some incentives with JobKeeper and things like that, but for us, like I said, we just bunkered down and got on with business and kept going as per normal. So I think for other businesses, I know that the JobKeeper has probably been a godsend for them and enabled them to keep people on. But for us, we haven't really reached out for any of that.
So how much impact has it really had on your business? If you're looking at numbers percentage-wise, has there been a downturn of 20%, 10%, or are you actually growing in some areas?
In some areas we have seen some growth, especially in the architectural division. I think overall in the construction, it's probably so multi-sib, which is the residential, that's plateaued. That hasn't really come down or gone up. Although we are seeing that there are some quite a few new projects coming through towards the tail end of this year, and interface has probably petered off maybe 3%. So it's marginal, and we always there is around that. May, June, July, we always do see a little bit of a decrease in revenue. So I don't think it's had a massive effect. I think the property development that's been affected more because we were putting in plans and permits for a few other sites, and we just knew the queue and the backlog that was coming through. Although they did say they were trying to push some planning permits through faster, we haven't seen that come to fruition. We've spoken to a lot of other developers, and they've said the same thing, that they're expecting really fast turnarounds, and it's just been turnaround as per normal. So I don't think that it hasn't impacted us massively. You know, what the one impact that it has had, I suppose, is it's you know, because there's so much less noise. Where you know, after the first probably 3 weeks, the phones weren't ringing as much, and we weren't doing as many as video conferences because people were just getting a little bit sick of them. So we found, you know, especially Mark and I, we found that we had quite a bit more time. So we took that time to really sit back and reflect and look at things in the business that we needed to improve on, things that we could work on with the team, you know, do things better, how do we do them smarter. So there was a little bit of time for us where, you know, because we were so busy before that, you know, meeting people for coffees, going out for lunches, going for dinners, none of that was happening. So we had a hell of a lot more time to really focus on the things that we never get to focus on.
And what are some of those things that have become a priority once you have sat down and reflected upon, okay, we need to put some energy behind that? What are some particular areas that you could name there?
I think that it was, you know, systems and processes, how we're operating the business, how we're working with the teams, you know, ensuring that everyone's, you know, happy and getting the most out of it. And is there extra training that we can do? So, you know, we ended up introducing a cadet program through the COVID time. And since then, I think we've got 2 or 3 cadets on now with us. And you know, they're with a cadet funded facility where they're going through that 3-month training period. So we've actually put on 3 cadets during that COVID time as well, which has been really good because it's something we've been wanting to work on, you know, that internal training program for a long time. And finally we had the time to do it and implement it.
Yeah, brilliant. So it's actually enabled you to be proactive in some areas, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, also too with, you know, mentoring. So I've started mentoring 2 of our staff members because I've had time to do that and really been able to give them time to commit myself to that. We've started, and you'll love this one. When we first moved in, we separated one room for a meditation room.
Yep.
And we've started with, you know, some nominated staff members. I sent an email around and said, who wants to do the meditation weekly? So now we have a meditation group. We're all spaced out all over the room, so we've got all the social distancing, but we spend a good 20 minutes every Wednesday afternoon, and we do a meditation session. And it's just, you know, it's a good way to come away from all this stuff, come away from the business, and just sit in that space.
Brilliant. I love to hear it. Is there voluntary involvement in that, or is it mandatory for all staff?
No, it's completely voluntary. I think that you know, there's probably some mandatory ones I'd love to get in there. But no, it is all it's voluntary, and you know, I do go around and you know, hassle a few people, say, I haven't seen you in the meditation room yet, and I want to see you in there. So but you know, the guys and girls that we get in there, they love it. And we have a bit of a chat afterwards, and it's a really good space to just take you away from everything else that's happening.
Yeah, brilliant. I do want to focus on it for a bit longer because it is something that I'm very passionate about. And to all my people who work with me who are looking at the camera right now, yes, it's going to be mandatory in Humaneity for you to start meditation. So in terms of the business benefits, because obviously all of these things are great things to, you know, a lot of people have got a bit of skepticism over meditation and all that sort of stuff. So have you started to see benefits in the business yet as a result of doing this?
Yeah, so we've definitely seen benefits of you know, just how people are thinking and how they're reacting, and you know, taking time to absorb things. And it's one thing that Mark and I, you know, Mark's meditated for probably most of his life, and I started meditating probably on and off 10 years ago. And we'd really fallen away from that for a long time because we had this idea of being in business. You just had to hustle and you had to go and you just had to push. So we were just, you know, for the last 7-8 years, pushing. And, you know, then we got a business coach, and then we got 2 coaches. And then we started doing a lot of research around, you know, with Dr. Joe Dispenza and, you know, getting back a lot of that stuff. And I said to Mark one day, you know, one thing that we're not working on, because we're always talking about what we're working on and what we're not and what we can improve and what we can't. And he said, yeah, okay, what do we need to work on? What do we need to push? And I said, ourselves. And he kind of sat back and he's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, you know, if we're continually telling people that we are one of the best assets for the business aside from our amazing team that we've got, we work on everything else in the business, why the hell aren't we working on ourselves and, gaining all these strengths and muscles in ourselves that we can share with everyone? So we consciously made that decision to just stop and get back into our meditation, get back into, for me, I love doing yoga, and get back into the yoga and get to, a really healthy, spiritual place for us, but also a time to be able to just unplug from everything. And as soon as we started doing that, we started seeing, how we, on a different level, how we were interacting with the team, and how the culture became so much more important to us than actually doing the work. And then, people would come up and be asking us questions and, how do you go through this and how do you go through that? And then, someone was saying, well, why don't we put a meditation room in the new office? So it creates those sparks, and it really opens up people's creativity spikes. So we're all kind of on that same level and want to drive forward.
How's it help you evolve as a business leader? How has your personal journey of meditation helped you evolve?
It's massive. It's massive, and it continues. Every single day. Like, I out of the two of us, I used to be quite the aggressor in how I operated in business, and wasn't shy to go and have a yelling match with someone or take an aggressive approach to it. And since I've developed back into that, and it's never something that really sat. I never liked that, but that's how I grew up in business. And since bringing the meditation back and really focusing on it, I'm so calm, I'm so collected. I'll sit back and rationalize with myself, or Mark and I will discuss things before we make a decision, instead of just, business flying off the handle all the time. We're really just sitting in a space and thinking about it and discussing it. We'll throw things up on the whiteboard. We'll have a discussion with, external people around us and say, okay, what's the best way moving forward? And it just, it just gives you the real ability to not be stuck in the problem if there is a problem. And we say to people all the time, if they say, oh, we're having a really bad day, we're having a shit day, I said, well, it's not a day, it's a moment. And we can absolutely, and Mark's rule is a 90-second rule. You can absolutely have a shit moment, but only hold on to that for 90 seconds. And if you need to go and sit down and just think about it and want to punch walls and throw things and do this and do that for 90 seconds and swear and carry on, go for it. And then once that 90 seconds is finished, let it go. Don't let it become a bad day, because you don't need to. It can just be a bad moment.
I've got one for you to share with Mark when you get off the call with me today, and that's the NASA rule. And the NASA rule is going to help Mark cut it down from 90 seconds to 5 seconds, because the NASA rule is basically a countdown from 5 to 0, and by the time you get from 5 to 0, let it go, let the new space come between you and whatever that anger and aggression was in you, and you'll find you'll be able to let it go. So think of the NASA rule next time, and count down from 5 to 0 if you're out there listening to this.
Yep, I love it.
It's also a good one for decision making too as well. Use the NASA rule a lot in decision making, because people often come up with excuses on why they shouldn't do stuff that they're thinking about, and quite often the things that they're thinking about are actually good ideas and they should be implemented, but they seem to talk themselves out of it. So the NASA rule applies also in decision making. When you've got a decision that you want to implement something, count down from 5 to 0 and then go and actually implement it, and don't talk yourself out of doing it. So the longer you leave yourself time to talk yourself out of it, the probably quicker you will actually do that. So there you go. Think of the NASA rule.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because procrastination can be your biggest enemy.
Yeah, exactly right.
Especially in making decisions, because you're allowing this thought to bounce around to every single part of your brain. And there's all, we've got all these emotions attached in there that are attached to your body and attached to your mind. And if you're allowing too much time, by the time you finish it, you're like, I'm confused. What do I do?
Yeah, and someone who also is very, much a follower and believer in what Joe Dispenza does, and follow his journey a lot and all the things that he's advocating. There's scientific data that shows that the back part of our brain, which is the place where it holds our fear and our concern for making sure we don't create too much risk in our lives, is also the part of the brain where we come up with excuses on why we shouldn't do things, because it's going to hurt us in some way. So if we do the NASA countdown process, it's been scientifically proven, and this is why NASA actually used this process. It's been scientifically proven that if we only give ourselves 5 seconds, then it doesn't have time for that thought process to get back into that part of the brain where we start coming up with excuses. So
I love that.
Yeah, alluding to exactly what you talked about around procrastination. So there we are. I hope we help someone out with that process.
We've got a whiteboard. We've got a big common area with some grass, and we encourage everyone to write little things. I'm going to put the NASA rule count down from 5 on the whiteboard. That's going on there. I'll put your name under it, mate.
You can give NASA the credit for that one, mate. So. Meditation, have you extended it to customers and suppliers yet? Have you invited them in for meditation sessions or do it online with them?
We haven't yet, and I think it's a great thing to do because we were going to be having clients and suppliers in for Friday night drinks, but that's kind of all on hold at the moment. But doing the online thing is that's a good idea. I actually might look into that.
The reason I say that is because in talking to you we haven't met before we've had this conversation today, obviously, and what I'm hearing from you is, a lot of, I don't want to call it new wave management or business leadership, but you're coming up with some very, innovative ways in which to engage and change your culture. For me, culture within a business also extends to the way that we interact with our customers and our suppliers and all the rest of it. So whilst you're doing a fantastic job in doing the culture internally, maybe there's also an opportunity there to take it external with your customers and suppliers and bring that culture to them as well.
Oh, look, and that's absolutely something that we discuss with all of our clients, and that's how we develop such great relationships because, we pride ourselves on just building good relationships and going forward. We've had some terrible relationships in the past in business, and going forward, we're so communicative and expressive about who we are as people and what really motivates us and what gets us to understand, because that's one massive question that we get from people. And we must express it without even knowing. And people, especially clients and a lot of suppliers will say, you guys have got a really amazing culture. You've got a really good energy. And we do get thrown back by it sometimes and think, oh, well, that's really great feedback. And they say, how do you do it?
Yeah.
And we say, well, this is, we do meditation, and we do, we used to have group lunches before COVID really smacked us in the arse with it. But we used to have, so we would get each team, and it would consist generally of 3 people in the team. They would bring in, because we've got a very multicultural, diverse range of people that work within the business. We've got, us that are all, Italian background, and we've got some Indians, Chinese, Vietnamese, one Greek, I think, and Romanian, you name it, we've got it. So with the team days, we get to bring in a dish from their hometown or from their home or whatever it is that means something to them, and they cook it for the whole team. And then we will sit around as a whole team and we'll eat lunch together and spend an hour and a half, and just, Rick, our GM, will do a bit of a presentation and update as to where we're at in the business, what's happening. And it's literally like one big family breaking bread together.
Yeah, fantastic. I love it. Love the sound of it. Has COVID-19 and the situation that we're going through, and what I've been hearing and talking to you today is that, you haven't been impacted as much as some businesses have. You've been able to look at the continuation of your business as it was in a lot of areas. Has it made you look for new collaborations in your business strategy? Is collaboration something that's a big part of your business?
In what sense do you mean collaborations, like in new business ventures or?
Yeah, partnerships, business ventures, that type of, looking at how other, I guess, organisations with certain skill sets could complement what you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. We're always so we're working on 2 joint venture projects with new businesses at the moment in the property area, and working with some really amazing people. And again, that's it's something that is the guys that we're working on those businesses with, they've slowed down. They haven't had a downturn, but they've slowed down, which, like I was saying before, it's given us more time, it's given them more time. We're like, okay, bang, let's do this. Let's, collaborate and make this thing happen. So it's planned out for 12 months' time when this new business will come to fruition, but we've got that planning time to do it. And we're always looking for other businesses to joint venture with, to come on board with, or, we've had quite a few people come to us with opportunity and say, we want to do this. Do you guys want to get on board and help? And because we've got Masci Services Group, which has a really good facility for the accounts, the admin, the sales and marketing, and all that back end stuff, it's a really good bolt-on for them.
Yeah, I bet it is. Yeah. So looking at where we're at now, and you gave us that grave news before we got on air today about COVID and Melbourne in particular. What's the crystal ball telling you for the next 12 months on how your business strategy is going to pan out?
crystal ball, COVID-wise, I think that the crystal ball's broken. I think business-wise for us, we're just trying to secure more projects. We're not going aggressive in aggressively trying to grow the business. We're just stabilizing, looking at what the resources that we need. If there's opportunity to recruit more amazing people, more awesome people, that's our ethos around here is be awesome. We have a big neon sign in the foyer that says that. So if there's opportunity to be recruiting more awesome people, then that's what we're looking for, and really bolster onto the business. But the strategy is just stabilizing, being quite secure, and not taking on a massive amount of risk.
What have you learned the most about yourself during this period, Daniel, from the time that COVID came to town until today, talking to me here?
Oh, that's a good question. I think one thing that I've really learned is that I can have patience, because I've been a very impatient person for a very long time, and going through this process is it is a little bit daunting, because the streets are empty. You're not seeing people around. You're not seeing that hustle and that bustle, it's one thing that I love. But I've learned that that there's a start and there's an end to everything, and you have to have the patience to just wait it out and see where it takes us. And I suppose using what I've probably always underestimated is utilizing the energy that I've got, and I've got a really great energy, and I've never really openly looked at that. And people through this time have said, it's not the same when you're not in the office and you bring that really great energy and really give people a really good product. So I suppose what I've learned more so about myself is maintaining that really good headspace for myself, and maintaining that energy that I can pass on to the team and create that really great environment.
If you weren't doing what you're doing today, what do you think you'd be doing in life?
I'd probably, maybe I'd be in Italy somewhere, just hanging out and eating pasta, and just meditating. That's a really hard thing to try and think about, because Mark and I, and funnily enough, we both had a human design reading done for ourselves over the last 2 weeks, and one of the things that came up for us both was that we both love doing a lot of different things. And when we were going through, through this reading, Ashley, who did this reading for us, was amazing, said, don't ever stop doing a lot of things. She said, people are always going to try and tell you just stop and just focus on one thing. She said, but, and this was individual readings we both had. And, when we shared them, I was like, man, that's just, it's so us. And she said, you just keep doing multiple things, because that's the space that you really thrive in. So if we weren't doing this, we'd probably be doing 20 other different things that are similar to this, or on a different scale to this, or we'd always be keeping ourselves really, really not even occupied. We're just challenged. We just love challenging ourselves. We really just love that challenge.
Yeah. Okay, cool. A lot of people out there across the world having different levels of success and challenges with business at the moment. What's some of your advice for people that are maybe struggling a bit in managing their business through these difficult times?
I think, going back to what we said before, one of the most important things is to, really understanding your financial position, because that's, that for us, that is, and has been in the past, one of the biggest stresses in business is not understanding where you sit financially, where you're sitting financially in 3 months, 6 months, and 12 months. And it can be hard to try and map out, a really accurate 12-month cash flow with your P&Ls. But if you can get a really good gauge of that, then you know where you're heading, so you know where your shortfalls are. So okay, well, I need to work in this area to pick that up. So, I think if people can really look at their financial position, really understand that, really understand their cash flow, what revenue they need to be bringing in, then focus on the revenue. I think too many times people just go out and just think that they've just got to go and focus on getting the business in and getting the business in and getting the business in, and they end up getting in all this business where they're not actually even making any profit because they haven't resourced it right, or they don't have the ability to bring the things in to hand over the project, or to hand over whatever the services that they're providing. If you understand your financial part of it, you understand what you need to do. So you don't need to go after as much. You can say, okay, well, I actually don't need to go and, bring in 20 containers of clothing from China. I only need to bring in one container. But understanding that financial position, I think, is critical.
Yeah, cool. And one last thought for today, if you want to share about the importance of culture within any company of any size, can you give us some thoughts around that?
That's one of the biggest learnings that we have had, is how important that culture is. You can have the best product in the world, but if you don't have the right team for it and the right culture set in that business, you're not getting the most out of yourselves, and you're not getting the most out of your people. So, we spend a hell of a lot of time at work. All of our teams spend a hell of a lot of time at work. So you want to make sure, and we want to make sure, that we love all the people that come to work. We want to make sure that we walk in and we smile and we get excited about being here, and that they get excited. And if you don't have that, then it's just, it's not the right place. And we want to create something where we see people walking in and, high-fiving when there's no corona, and, and celebrating the wins, and, working through the losses and, the hard times. And, that culture for us is absolutely everything.
Yeah, understandably so. Well, listen, it's been fantastic having you on the Global Business Podcast show today. I really appreciate you giving me your time and sharing all the wonderful things you have with the audience today, because there's been some great tips in there. I'm going to be putting in the show notes today, folks, the contact details if you want to reach out to Daniel and say hi. I'm sure he'd be open for a chat. Maybe you want to learn how to do meditation in your office. He'll give you plenty of tips on that. So Daniel, thanks very much for joining me on the show today.
My absolute pleasure, Mark. It was some really great conversations, and I'm glad we delved into the meditation a bit. That's what excites me.
Good stuff.
Awesome.